Where is my money? You and your student might be wondering, okay, we got this financial aid package, or we got these scholarships, or we borrowed this amount of money. Where is it literally? So in today's video, I want to talk all about financial aid disbursement and how the money is literally managed when it comes to paying the bill. So it might seem like it'd be simple, but you may be surprised at the complexities. So I wanted to make sure that you know what to expect so that your student doesn't risk missing any kind of deadlines for paying the bill. Because believe it or not, if they have the money in their account, but they don't apply it, they can actually be dropped from their classes. So this is important to understand. So go ahead and continue on with me. Now make sure you hit subscribe because every week we release a new strategy where your family can work towards a debt-free degree. So if any part of the money that's being dispersed is student loans, then you will make sure you want to learn some of these strategies so you can replace those student loans with hopefully debt-free money. Hey there, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System, and that's what we do. We have taught thousands of families to secure scholarships. In fact, we are now well into the tens of millions of dollars, which is just absurd and amazing. But even if a family has already borrowed money, believe it or not, you can change that for the remaining years your student is in college. But that said, today I want to talk about just how is the money sent to your family or paid to the bill? How is it handled? So let's define the options here. So when a student is given a financial aid letter, that is typically defining the money for the entire school year. But when it comes to paying the bill, it's going to be broken down into semesters, so half and half. And if your family decides to pursue a payment plan, which could be an option, and if you are unsure or never even heard of payment plans, I have an entire video all about them. You can find the link in the description after the video. But payment plans would break them up more than just 2 payments for the school year. But that said, the schools have certain rules and guidelines to follow when it comes to dispersing funds and how they are managed. Now, what you might be thinking, what do you mean dispersed? So when it comes to dispersing money, it actually can mean just paying the bill. So maybe the amount that's put onto your student's account is less than the total bill. So in that case, we just mean applying that money to the bill. But in some cases, students can actually get money beyond what their total bill is at the university. In fact, that's the case I got to, where I literally received more money than my bill. And so in that case, I received an overage check for the remaining amount. So that was a separate kind of disbursement. But first, I had to apply that money to my bill. Now, in most cases, whether your student receives money from private scholarships, private institutions, or from the university or from the government, it's typically applied to their account as a credit. So the money is sent directly to the school. That way they know it goes to the bill. There are some exceptions. In fact, even I got scholarships that were sent directly to me, or cash awards, which our families love, where there's an actual cash check that's given to your student and they can use it as they wish. Now let's talk about timing. So when will you see this money? When it comes to the school's money, the most financial aid and scholarship offices will release aid no sooner than 10 days before the start of the class. So as long as your student meets the requirements, then they can release the funds so that they can be used as needed. Now, when we're talking about requirements, we're talking about, say, they have to meet SAP, which is satisfactory academic progress. So this is a GPA kind of requirement, or maybe they have to have a certain number of credit hours. They have to be full-time in order to receive the funds. Maybe some of the scholarships have their own kind of requirements, like a specific major. Students have to be not in default on previous student loans or owe any kind of financial aid back from previous situations where maybe it was an accidental draw, or maybe they did something where it would have to be paid back. For example, we've seen some where if a student changes their major, then they have to give the money back. But this is pretty rare. There can be so many different criteria. So we always suggest checking with your financial aid office to make sure that your student has checked all the boxes so that they can properly receive any kind of money that they should receive and that they've earned. Now, releasing the funds 10 days before class or so will enable your student to use any kind of excess funds for whatever they need, whether it's books, a laptop, supplies for their classes, etc. So like I mentioned, you can get to where there is an overage of scholarship money, But also some students will opt in to borrow a little bit extra so that they have a little bit of leeway here. Now, I really recommend considering that before doing it. So we want to try to borrow the least amount we can. But that said, we also have to be able to pay for the things that we need. So this is something to weigh between being comfortable, but also being financially responsible. What can we pay back, etc. But that said, if your student does borrow a little bit extra, that's also part of this disbursement. Now, one other thing is when it comes to disbursement and having to pay these fees, different schools can actually have different schedules, or different education levels can have different schedules. For example, master's degree versus an undergraduate degree. So you also want to make sure that your student understands that their schedule for their degree in their education level. Now, the other thing is there is usually a little bit of a leeway after the semester starts before the bill is truly due and before they'll be dropped from their class. But again, the deadline will vary by institution, so we want to make sure. This also, you may see a lag in when the federal funding can be applied to the account. And I think that's a part of the reason why these deadlines do vary, because they need to have a little bit of leeway with the government's funding that they need to receive as well. Now, as far as government funding, I have an entire student loan playlist where we talk about the different types of federal loans and different types of funding. We'll link to that in the description along with all the other resources that I'm mentioning. The other thing that I want to briefly mention is that when I'm talking about these overage checks, for example, if we want to avoid the student loans, our students can continue applying for scholarships all throughout their 4 years in college. So they can actually change what their situation is every single year. So if you're interested to learn more about scholarships and how we can hopefully replace student loans with them, then check out my free training at thescholarshipsystem.com/free training, or you can find the link in the description or somewhere here on the screen. But that way your family can be working on that, even if maybe this semester they had to have some student loans disbursed. Now, as far as the schedule, when payments are due, when money will be disbursed, when federal money will be applied to the account, all of this information should be accessible on the financial aid office. Now, one exception will be scholarships. Scholarships can do whatever they want. We, in fact, at the scholarship system give out thousands of dollars every single year. Our deadline is actually mid-July, and then we send the checks within a couple weeks. So we try to make sure that the money is there before they would start the semester. But we've had checks sometimes get lost in the past or things like that. And the financial aid office has worked with us before when that happened. We actually found out that they did have it in a pile of mail and just didn't apply it, but that's besides the point. Either way, they did work with the student. So that said, when it comes to private scholarships, your student might have to submit a piece of paper. They may have like an official file form for your student to file saying, hey, I won this scholarship, so they have a heads up that it's coming. But no matter what, the private scholarships, usually they send the money directly to the school, but as far as the timing of it, that can truly vary. So if your student is awarded a scholarship and you haven't heard back or you haven't seen it applied to the account, you haven't heard back as far as when you could expect to see that, and the bill is due within the next few weeks, I would follow up and just politely ask when the money should be applied to the account, when you can expect to see it, and if they need anything for you in order for them to send the money, if there's anything holding it up. Now, what about federal work study? So federal work study, this is money that students have to work for, but it is still given through financial aid offers. Now, these are not necessarily guaranteed. It requires work. That's why it's work study. So it is based on the hours that they work. I have an entire video all about work study program and how that works. So you can check out more there if that's something that your student has received in their financial aid letter. Now, comment below, is your paying the bill process straightforward, or have you found it confusing? Do you have any questions about it? Let me know in the comments and we will get back to you. Okay, so that said, the financial aid process, it can be so confusing. There's so much that goes into it, as you see in this video, but hopefully now you have a little bit better of an understanding of what to expect when it comes to paying the bill and when it comes to receiving any kind of money. So also, as far as understanding a little bit of the timing, it is gray, it does vary, but hopefully now you feel a little bit more confident. And again, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to comment below. We even have people that have worked at financial aid offices in the past on our team, so they have seen it firsthand, and we're happy to help you. And again, check out that free scholarship training, because again, it's never too late to apply to scholarships, so you want to help your student build that list. And make sure you hit subscribe, because every week we have a new strategy when it comes to paying for college. All right, I'll see you in the next video.